Howdy, y'all. Joe Hills here, recording as I always do in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'd like to welcome you to Minecraft Morning Musings. Today we're going to explore why I believe that when reading the Dao de Jing, or really any philosophical translated text, it's important to look at more than one translation. To show you how different two translations can be, I'm planning to read chapter 68 of the Dao de Jing to you twice, once in the 1891 stylings of James Legge, and then again from McDonald's 1996 public domain translation. I want to warn you up front, Legge's translation is particularly opaque, like sunglasses that you have painted over with spirals, only to discover that said spirals have failed to grant you X-ray vision, just as they have disallowed you vision at all. So, here we go, chapter 68 by James Legge. He who in Tao's wars has skill assumes no martial port. He who fights with most good will to rage makes no resort. He who vanquishes yet still keeps from his foes apart, yet whose hests men most fulfill, yet humbly plies his art. Thus we say he ne'er contends, and therein is his might. Thus we say men's will he bends, that they with him unite. Thus we say, like heaven's ands, no sage of old more bright. You probably followed some of that. It was hard to read aloud. It was hard to listen to, I'm sure. But just listen to the very same chapter, the same exact chapter. Chapter 68 by McDonald. The best warriors do not use violence. The best generals do not destroy indiscriminately. The best tacticians try to avoid confrontation. The best leaders become servants of their people. This is called the virtue of non-competition. This is called the power to manage others. This is called attaining harmony with the heavens. Now, sure, McDonald didn't make any effort to rhyme all that, but he saved himself around 80 words, and that was way easier to follow, I'm sure. You know, if you ever get stuck while exploring sacred texts of other cultures, I hope you'll remember this example and be encouraged to seek another translation, because this is a night and day difference right here. Now, in regard to the actual Taoist teachings of this chapter, which we must not neglect, having read the second translation, I don't even know that I need to break this chapter down for you. You know, you've all seen the Kung Fu movies where they explain that the best way to avoid having to fight is to not fight. You know, oh, you can't lose if you don't fight. This is the entire film of War Games. The woman that's married to the guy, and The Wire says, you know, you cannot lose if you do not play. You know, Wu Wei, non-assertion, main idea. We've hit this in the last video, you know, and this is also obvious. You know, why is it even in the Dao de Jing? You know. Well, they didn't have The Wire, or War Games, or Kung Fu movies back then, back when all this was being written. You know, in fact, they barely had Kung Fu. That was a pretty recent thing. Well, maybe. Maybe that last statement's a little bit of a stretch, but these teachings, though, these were radical. They were not commonly known or followed, at least at first, and as such, you know, covering the same material over again from chapter to chapter helped reinforce the ideas that Lao Tzu was communicating, you know. He expresses clearly that non-assertion is important for leaders, you know, throughout the Dao de Jing. And in this chapter, he makes a point of saying that it's important not only in civilian matters, you know, like tax codes and bureaucratic processes, you know, because lots of people, they think, oh, hey, you know, I get to run this small portion of the country. I'm going to institute 100 rules, prove how important I am. You know, Lao Tzu's already called them fools in earlier chapters, but in this chapter he's saying these very same lessons also apply to military matters, you know. Now, I'm sure that many of you guys don't get involved in the administration of violent conflicts on a regular basis, but even so, you know, I think that there's some takeaway messages here. This chapter can serve to remind you that there are a lot of battles that you can avoid losing by refusing to participate in. Flame wars over trivial things on the internet, office politics, silly arguments at home. You just, every time somebody, brings something to your attention in a negative way, you don't need to jump in with your tongue fists flying. You can just kind of hear them out, and who knows, maybe they just needed to yell at somebody and they'll go away. There might not be a solution that you are forced to scream back at them, or maybe if you just sit there and wait for a little bit, you'll see a solution that's so elegant you don't have to go to battle over it. But anyway, I'll leave that to you to look for opportunities to practice Wu Wei in this way, your way, in your life. I was going to say at your Burger King, but that's not really where I wanted to go with that. The marketing is ruining my brain. Anyway, so this is still a pretty experimental series, guys. I want to say thank you to everyone who's watching it so far, and I really appreciate you. If you could thumbs up or thumbs down each video, your feedback is welcome. Comments also welcome. Telling friends, even more welcome still. If there was like a really welcome still, like a still that made like magic whiskey, that still would be encouraging you to tell your friends. So, anyway, until next time, y'all, this is Joe Hills from Nashville, Tennessee. Keep adventuring.